Everyone, thank you for coming to tonight's meeting for the 2023 tax classification. We are pleased to have so many counselors in attendance this year. I don't see anyone online, so that's good. With us tonight, we have, I'll let Cheryl go through the list, if she will, please, just to introduce the counselors.
With us tonight is Todd McGee, Jenny Rivera, I think it is on, hello? Yep. Will, Linda Vashon, Juan Burgos. Juan Anderson Burgos. I apologize. Joseph McGivern, Kevin Jourdain, Peter Tallman, Tessa Murphy Ramboletti, Israel Riviera, and if I mispronounce your names, I apologize. And Debbie and myself, and Mayor Josh Garcia is also with us.
Thank you all. At this meeting, we present to you the values that we have for each class of property for 2023. These values were developed over the course of the year through changes of property, either by way of physical adjustment, building permit inspections, new construction, or by the way of increase in sale value of properties across the board. The city of Holyoke, much like other communities across the state, has seen both a record number of sales in the past calendar year, as well as increase in sale prices. The surge in sales has increased real estate prices the past couple of years, and this year included. This raises the values of properties in the city. To make this a fair process to all property owners, all non-arm's length sales are excluded from sales analysis. Only sales that are arm's length between a willing buyer and willing seller under no duress to buy or sell are used for studies. The sales are weighted, as calculated as of the median. Coefficient of dispersions are calculated as well to determine the level of assessment to find the assessment sale ratio that is the factor of either raising values or decreasing values. The sales values have surpassed assessed values, thus an upward adjustment in values is required. This year we have seen a large increase in the values of the single-family homes and condominiums. Single-family class has increased nearly $90 million over last year's values. Condos have increased over $9 million. These were our two largest classes of increase by far. Other classes have risen as well, but not as significantly. This leads us to our levy for 2023. Our levy for 2023 is at $61,999,858, or to estimate it at $62 million, which is nearly $2 million more than fiscal year 2022. This sets our single tax rate at $24.42 per thousand. The shifting of the tax burden among classes is to be determined by the City Council. The Council must either accept or adopt the single tax rate or select a minimum residential factor to shift a percentage of the burden from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, or personal property class. By selecting the shift factor, you are decreasing the rate for residential taxpayers and increasing the shares paid by the commercial, industrial, personal property class. At this time, we would like to welcome comments from the audience, and there is no one in the audience. We'll welcome comments from the mayor if he would like to make any comments at this time. No? Okay. So we will open up the floor to all the city councils if you have any questions or concerns after looking at the paperwork.
Deb?
Linda.
Thanks. So I guess my first question would be, if everything was to remain the same as the rates are this minute, what would be the practical effect on the average homeowner and the average business owner?
Well, I do have that in your packet for you.
Okay.
And it does highlight the average tax bills from the past 5 years.
Which page are we on?
It's in the packet with City Hall on the front. If you go to average tax data, it's page 5, I believe.
Gotcha.
And it does show us Last year, the average single-family home value was $219,470, and our tax rate for 2022 was $19.26. That left the average tax bill at $4,227. This year, the average home value for single-family homes has risen to $236,262. Whatever the tax rate we set, that bill is going to be higher this year for the single-family tax owners because of the increase in value. The graph also highlights commercial industrial and commercial industrial excluding the mall as well, and two-family homes. And the values have increased across the board.
I have a question.
Okay, Givner?
Are these anywhere in percentages? Why are they per 1,000?
Why are they per 1,000?
Yeah.
Because that's the average value.
Is
To find the average value, we take the total value of the class, and we are dividing it by the total number of parcels in that class to come up with the average value.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Tallman?
Yes, Deb, thank you for coming down again and going through this with us. You just stated about the rate. On the white sheet, it's got 1906, and on the tax data, it's got 1926. Is it, and the two different, is that, am I seeing something wrong for 2022?
No, you're not seeing it wrong. You're seeing a typo. It is 1926.
Okay, so it should be 1926.
1926, right. That was the tax rate for 2022. Thank you for catching that.
Okay. And a question I usually ask about and how apartment buildings, 6 or more, they're classified as what? Are they residential?
Yes.
Okay. And has there been a talk about trying to make that business at so many apartments,
There is
this
no
right?
talk about trying to change that. That would have to come from the state,
State?
and they would have to change the classification. Right now, anything that's used for residential is used for human habitation, so it's used as a residential classification,
Okay.
which carries a residential rate.
Okay. So where does that fall into here as far as, property rates, average rates?
I don't break them down for apartments because it's too vast. It's too hard to do because we have 4-unit apartment buildings and 30-unit apartment
Okay,
buildings. So
okay.
that's something we can't break down to give you an average of.
Okay. And that's something that, if you got an apartment building with 8 tenants, 8 different apartments in it, they
Right.
could end up paying,
They
rate
pay,
is-
they pay by apartment,
By
yes.
apartment,
And they
okay.
also are assessed using income and expense information for apartment buildings and sales information.
Okay.
And I can tell you, we are probably going to have an increase in apartment building values coming up. We've had a couple, most recently, a couple have just sold for over $1 million.
Yeah, I thought reading the paper, I thought I saw a couple big ones just recently. So that'll change. That won't even follow right away.
Well, that doesn't mean everything's going to go up unless we have a lot more of that trend happening. It's kind of skewing the sales for that category, though. If
Right.
not all of them are going to sell at those kind of prices, we're going to have to take into account different effects to give everybody a fair assessment.
Right. And just one last comment or question. I'm sure a lot of my colleagues feel the same way. The mall value, has that again another year gone down?
The
quite a
mall
bit?
value has gone down again. Yes, it has.
Okay. And is that something that we're looking at? I think last year we talked about that, about having somebody look at that, an outside person to,
We did.
The value?
It's not really a feasible thing to have done, to have an appraisal done of the mall. A city paying for an appraisal on a building is not heard of. The mall provides us information from the appraiser that they hire, and that information gets reviewed by us.
okay. And so has that been sort of happening the last 2-3 years? with
Yes,
value?
and it looks like the
Longer.
mall is going to continue to go downward based on statistics across the country with malls and with our own mall.
And so in other words, it's the other taxpayers, homeowners, business owners have to pick up the difference
Yes,
to pay for the bills of the city.
correct.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Debbie?
I hear someone. Just to let you know, I am having a problem
Oh.
with my hearing, so I don't know where the sound's coming from. Kevin?
Okay, thank you. I have other questions, but I'll stay with Peter's last question because it was on my list. So, if you recall, we had a conversation, might have been a year ago, might have been 2 years ago, I forget now, but it was, I think it was last year, was relative to us getting a consultant to come in and help us on these appeals, right? Because they come in, they give us their information, they come armed with their tax attorneys and the whole arm, and the whole entourage, and then there's your office against that. And that doesn't seem like a fair fight to me, okay? As good as you guys are, you can't be expected to be experts in all of this. And I think we discussed that we were going to pay to have a consultant come in and help us to evaluate the appeal and where we're going with all of this, because I think we talked about maybe it would be $10,000 or $20,000 to hire somebody to do that. And we're talking about millions and millions in tax revenue. So even if it cost 50 grand to hire a consultant versus losing millions and millions and millions in tax revenue every year forever, what do you mean by it? It wouldn't be feasible, or it's been determined. Has there been a difference of opinion in the last year? Because the
No.
council, since I've been here and since January, and I only started in January, has not been debriefed about we're going in another direction relative to our position to make sure we have independent review of the mall assessment. You want to touch on that?
Yeah, I will touch on that for
What's
you.
going on? Yeah.
The city's not in a position to prove that our value is right. The taxpayer's in the position to prove that our value is wrong.
Okay.
The mall has sufficiently proved to us through hiring outside appraisers on their own that they have paid for where their value is lying. I am not an appraiser, but I am a qualified assessor to review that information.
Yeah.
We have decided not to hire outside counsel to help us prove that because that's not heard of. Talking to other assessors at different events and everything, they have to prove us wrong. We can take into account information they give us, and we have been. The national statistics of malls show a downward spiral of malls. We are lucky we have the mall we have at this point. The mall has provided us plenty of information last year. They have given us new information this year that has been reviewed, and we still are talking with them. Some of the information, this is not the platform to talk about it because the information they give us is personal and confidential, and I would be happy to talk to you about that in a different setting.
What do need?
We have also, I have talked to Josh, the mayor, and he said there is no money to have that done this year. I don't know if you want to comment on that,
We don't have enough money to hire somebody? Is that the statement?
to get an appraisal. An appraisal's not going to be cheap. If we get our own appraisal,
What could it
and as I
possibly-
said,
yeah.
cities don't go out and get their own appraisal.
Well,
The
we're,
companies battle us with their appraisers. The appraiser the mall hired is one of the top in the country for appraising malls.
great. Okay. So, I don't know what it cost, but whatever it is, it's a great investment. Okay. First of all, one, we're going to have peace of mind. Two, this is ground that we already trod over a year ago. I was under the impression we had all made that there was uniformity of opinion, and I'm glad we're having this because now we're getting this all out in the open because something's going on here. We had come out of the opinion that we were going to get independent advice to defend the city's interest, saying that the mall and their experts are experts, and therefore I accept it prima facie, face value, whatever they say, because they're really smart people. Hell yeah, they're really smart people. That's why they're down here kicking our rear end on these assessments, okay? And they're chopping away their formerly $8 million bill, now down to, I'm going to get the new number, where they were to where they are today. And I'll bet you it's probably, is it 4 million? We're going to find out it's less, but as of last year, it was like cut in half. So my question is, whatever that costs for us to defend, we need to make sure that we have an expert on our side of the table to evaluate all this stuff that they're doing and do our own independent analysis, because they're going to take this right down as low as they possibly can. And I've been saying this for years now, okay? And the concern I have is that without us retaining somebody, quite frankly, who's an expert in these areas, be it Patriot, be it Mayflower, be it what, I don't know, whoever the company is, that's almost the equivalent of saying, you know, Attorney X in a legal case made a great argument, so therefore because he's so smart, I just accept what he says as prima facie as accurate. No, I have my own lawyer, okay? And that's how when you have two sides of an argument, right, they each thoroughly vet. That's like saying in a lawsuit, you have one side with really smart counsel and this guy over here is pro se. And you know what the outcome there, because there's an old adage about a client who's his own attorney. He's got a fool for a client. Yeah. So that's basically what I see this, and I'm remarkably shocked that we either say we don't have the money or we don't want to do it because what other towns are doing. That's almost like when your mother says, well, if everybody else jumped off a bridge, would you? No, I wouldn't, okay? I look at my set of circumstances right here, and these guys are taking us to the cleaners. And we need to have, for peace of mind, our fiduciary duty to make sure that every nickel is accounted for correctly, and then we can hold to the taxpayers and say, we independently evaluate it. We don't just take what they say for granted.
Kevin, we are not taking what they say for granted. The information they have given to us, I haven't said, okay, that's it. We're dropping the value to what they say it is. We have been working with the mall. The mall is a very good partner for our city. And they understand our circumstances, and I understand their circumstances. The information they have given to us has been weighted and gone through, and it has not been dropped to what they have asked for. I am sure they are going to come back to us and be asking for more. And at that time, we can evaluate what direction we want to go if that happens. As I said, I am not an appraiser, but I am a qualified assessor, and I can look at the information presented to me, see the statistics, see the income and expense information they're provided to me, and all of the other information, and know where this value should lie. I'm sure that you have seen and heard about the demise of the malls across the states.
Of course.
Our mall is no exception.
It isn't an exception, but it
It's
may
not an
not be to
exception.
the degree that they're alleging.
No, but it could be more.
But
We could be lucky where we are.
Can we all stipulate you don't know and I don't know?
Nobody knows. We have the information that is provided to us and the information we have and they have to negotiate. And as I said, the information they provide to us is personal and confidential, and I do not feel that this is the format to discuss those issues at. But if you'd like to discuss it privately with other members of the council,
Well-
instead of in a public format, I would be very happy to do that with you.
You know the council's keen interest in this. You proactively should be setting up meetings with us. Okay, as you know, I'm very fond of you and the job you do. I'll stipulate that so everybody in the listening audience is, this is not Kevin giving Debbie a hard time. This is Kevin getting to the bottom of this situation relative to the mall. You need to be proactive. You need to set up a meeting with us, okay? I'll attend whatever meeting. But the point is, we need to be on top of this, because I will ask this, because this is all public information. What is their new assessment now? How much did it go down from last year?
It went down 6 million from last year.
6 million more.
6 million.
So we timed that by 40. That's another 240,000.
They were looking for 30.
Okay, but they're going to keep, it's just a matter of when you think the floor can't go lower, it goes lower. And my point is, this is going to go whittling down. And the bottom line impact, there will be a day of reckoning on the residential. We all understand, right? It isn't going to keep going up like this.
Well, I will wait until January. We'll see if they file an abatement. And I will set up a meeting with them and contact you and anyone else who'd like to maybe sit in on that meeting if they are privy to have all of their private confidential information discussed with the city council as opposed to just assessors.
I don't need the who, what, where on what, but because I'm not qualified to evaluate their information
Correct.
anyways.
Perhaps, though, hearing the information and seeing it would help you maybe understand.
No, it wouldn't.
Some.
No, it wouldn't. Because
It
here's
might.
why. Because when they come in with their expense reports or sales diagnoses and all these different things that they use in the formulas, I wouldn't be qualified to say, this is right, this is wrong, it should go down 6 million versus 8 million versus plus 3, okay? I'm not qualified to do that. But there are people out there that are, okay? So they've hired a firm to support them, and we have no firm on our side of the table to evaluate because, with all due respect, you're not qualified to evaluate all their materials. It's just way too complex, no more than they're qualified without the assistance of their counsel and support to do it, because to have that coming down to the degree that it is, I just want to make sure if it has to be, that it's right.
Right, and that is our job.
Okay.
Our job is to tax every taxpayer in the city, whether they're residential, business, commercial, industrial. Our job is to tax them fairly. And
Absolutely.
that is our main intent for every resident and business owner in the city.
And they're a unique situation. Not everybody's
course they are.
had a $220 million mall in their city.
Of course they are.
Okay. So what other people do is not really, in my opinion, again, relevant to us.
Right.
I would ask that, again, I'll second my request. Again, I'm not the mayor. He holds the only appropriations can originate with the mayor, not with the council. I made the request, and I'm going to make it again on the record, that we do this, that we get a cost estimate to hire professional assistants to evaluate the mall's proposals. Just say, I would appreciate if at least you guys did as much as say, well, we looked into it and it cost X, and we're not
Right.
willing to pay X.
It-
You're willing to just accept whatever they say.
It would have cost about $40,000.
Perfect.
To have an appraisal on the mall, plus council
Fine.
and interest,
Do you
based
know-
on the findings. It could be a very costly adventure for us to explore that option, and it could result in still a loss of value further than what we have. That is something we will have to explore as we hit that time.
But then we
But
have,
I'm willing to explore that and contact you of what direction it's going in.
again, that was said to me last year. I wasn't on the council then, but I am now. I hope that happens. 40,000's a drop in the bucket. I can tell you we waste a lot more than 40 grand on hiring all kinds of, quite frankly, ineffective legal counsel, outside counsel around here, on a great number of things. That's a great investment. To see to the extent we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars this is going down. Okay, so now back to my regular list of questions. Do you
Sure.
have the rate chart of all the MRF options?
No, we just have the single tax rate right now because the auditor's office is not done performing all of their work. So I don't have a final number to give you. But at the single tax rate, we did put that in there of what the single tax rate would be in the packet.
Yeah, but we don't ultimately vote on the single tax rate, as you
No.
know. We vote on.
You do a shift, and that's what you will be voting on. But we have to wait until the auditor's office is done with all of their work before we can give you those numbers.
What is the intent or the ask, if I might know? Is it that we'll vote on this on December 6th?
I would hope to, but the auditor's office is a little behind on getting their work done. So if not on the 6th, we're hoping for the 12th. If the
12th.
mayor would call a special meeting on Monday, December 12th.
Why We can't do it on the 20th then, or?
No. We have tax billing issues. The person that does our tax billing is coming December 14th. So unless he can change his date and he had no other dates available, the 14th would be the last day we have someone to come in and do the billing.
I see. Okay, well, hopefully,
We are crossing our fingers. Everybody's working diligently to make this happen.
okay. And so that kind of leads into my next question, which is you need the final levy number, correct?
Yes, well, the levy we have based on our values is what's in here. Whether we use the levy or not, or go to capacity, that's up to the city council, that's up to the mayor.
The 62 million number, that's the potential levy limit for 23?
The 62 million is the, yeah, 62 million is the levy limit.
Okay. And so that's the legally largest amount that they could tax for FY '23.
Yes.
And what is the current levy for FY '22, if I may ask?
22 levy limit was 59,911,794.
59,911?
Yep, so we're up nearly 2 million over last year on our levy.
Okay. And obviously, the mayor's, just so for the listening audience, they understand this process, we set the classification, but the mayor sets the levy limit. Next, strike that, the levy, the actual levy, the levy
Right, the
limit.
mayor determines the levy, you vote
Yep.
the shift factor of what percentage each class pays.
Exactly. So I don't know if the mayor has an announcement here to make tonight as to what the levy he's proposing for us, or he's still thinking about that.
Josh?
Just one thing for everyone. Got an update. The 12th, we have a public safety meeting, which has a citizens petition hearing on the 12th, just to let people know.
Okay.
So if you're trying to do a meeting for the 12th, it's already,
Well, the tax classification meeting would be done at the, if it's
Just let
not
you
the
know,
6th, the
schedule.
12th, okay.
that's all.
Do you know what time that meeting's at? 6:30, okay.
I don't have the information from me, but I know we're currently reviewing the supplemental, so we have in front of Finance Committee currently to make our final round of appropriations. And in there, in those packets, include what that levy limit is, what the levy limit is, and what the limit, and then the levy underneath that limit, if that makes sense. So it's there. I don't have it in front of me, but it's something we are going to be discussing at your next Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Deb, is it possible that you use that information? That's the most likely scenario. Again, we won't hold you to this if something moves a couple $100,000 one way or the other, but could you use one of those assumptions now to start circulating to the counselors what our options are? Because I'm sure the people in the room, we would like to start studying, the different shifts, because one of the things, which is my next question I wanted to ask you, is seeing the single-family home value go up 7.7% is pretty considerable increase, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So absent us dropping the rate 7.7%, there would be a pretty substantial tax increase, dollar-wise.
Yes, there would be.
Over 300.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
330. So the question is, are we planning to vote these people in a $330 tax increase, or are we, well, what's the discussion here at the?
if we use the levy as it is right now, at the nearly 62 million, as I said, your single tax rate's 2462.
Yep.
I do have shift options here in front of me that I printed out.
Okay.
The tax rate will go up. If you shift it to where you shifted it last year, it's going to go up on both ends, on the residential rate and the commercial rate.
Well, so if we kept a,
In order to have the residential rates lower than they are now, you would have to go to the maximum shift amount, and you would be increasing the business tax rate by over $2 per thousand.
To have a.
We are
what would the
currently-
residential be?
Right, we are currently the highest in the state for commercial tax rates.
Yeah.
We were the highest last year, we're the highest this year.
Well, when you have values that keep falling through the floor,
Well, our values are climbing.
not the mall, which is
Not the
1/3
mall,
of your
but
commercial.
the mall has come down a negligible amount compared to what the residential rate has gone up. The residential values have gone up nearly $90 million for
Yeah.
single-family homes.
No, understood. I understand that, but the point is, there'll be a day of reckoning soon on the residential, okay? And we've seen this go up. I've seen this
Right.
movie multiple times.
Yep.
And here's how the movie goes. Up, 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 up. Whole market bottomed out, everybody. Whammo, down. And it was the commercial that kind of was steady Eddie and saved us, okay?
Right.
From having a total implosion of our levy.
Right.
All right. And so now the only way this movie stays great is nothing happens to the residential because now your commercial's been decimated. Okay. This is the day of reckoning that I've been
Right,
pointing
but
out.
I
with
think we're going to
each side.
see a lot of commercial loss in the future with what's happening in the economy.
You could be right. And
And I think our residential class is climbing in value, and it may be showing us we need to reevaluate the shift percentages. If one class is greater than another, we're going to have less to shift.
because without increasing the total levy, theoretically, all things equal, if you're taxing the same amount of money, if the value goes up 7%, the rate would come down 7%, right? And then that would generate the equal amount of money.
Right,
So the question is, we want to generate enough to if the goal here is to bring in, and of course the
Yep.
mayor, as I said, the mayor decides that. If we want to generate an extra $2 million, we're going to have to go up on the rates somewhere.
correct.
But the question is, what would be the likely residential rate in that scenario? Like if we kept the commercial comparable to 40/60. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So 40/60 would be like 1968. Oh, wow. So 1968, to keep the commercial rate the same, we would have to actually increase the residential rate. Okay. So now you're going up 7.7% on the value, and you're going up another, I'd have to do the math what 1968 divided by 1926 is, but let's just say that's 2%.
Yeah, the tax bills for
2%.
residential are going to go up.
Oh my God.
Either
That's
way.
like a 10% tax increase on people. Oh my Lord.
So if I would just like to make a comment.
I'll stop there. Thank you.
And, a number of us have been saying this for a number of years, that the rate of growth in the budget is exceeding the ability of the taxpayers in our community to support it. And I mean, now we're hitting the wall when we're sitting here looking at almost a $20 tax rate for residential to keep a commercial rate at 40, which is already, as you've said, the highest.
Correct.
So I just think we have a fundamental structural problem here in that the size of our government is bigger than the size of our taxpayers to pay for it. And so if we keep growing the budget this year, next year, we don't have any ARPA money. And I don't envy the mayor trying to put
I don't either. It's a
budget
tough
after
job.
that, because it's like, where do we have to go? I mean, as a ward counselor, I have the seniors, particularly living in their homes, calling me every time they get a $200 increase in their tax bill, never mind a $400 increase. And I mean, I just feel like we're actually, this year, hitting the wall. And, there's not a magic answer. We really only have two things. We keep taxing more, or we downsize our budget. That's really it, right? I mean,
That is it.
and I'm saying it's simple, but that is in no way to say that it's easy.
No, it's not simple. You all have a very
It's-
difficult
it's-
job and difficult decisions to make.
It's very difficult, but we've kind of seen this coming for 10 years. But now we're here. But thank you for the information. I mean, as
You're welcome.
unpalatable as it is, I mean, we have to,
Well, I wish I
deal
could
with
bring
reality.
you better information and better news, so it wouldn't be such a tough
I'm sure you do.
choice for you.
Yeah, thank you. Counselor McGivern wants.
Joe?
Thank you, Devin. Appreciate this annual hearing and the work you do in your office to get all these numbers in front of us to allow us to make a educated decision if we choose to do tax classification. We don't have to. We can let the rate stay at the $24 and not shift the burden whatsoever, but I doubt that's going to happen. I wasn't going to say anything, but the mall conversation, just my 2 cents. My fear about the mall is losing Pyramid Corporation. They're the partner. We're not going to lose the mall, but if they sell, we could have a lesser keeper, owner, landlord of the mall that could run that building into the ground and not be the showcase that it's been for so many years, including our number one taxpayer. My thoughts about the appraisal. The appraisers are regulated by, all appraisers are regulated. And they have to live up to high standards and not just whether it's fair market value or whether it's, in the case of the mall, the income producing component of what happens at the mall. And we all know that's what's killing the malls throughout the country is Amazon and online sales and all the craziness we've seen, which seems to be tapering off, but at the same time, we're not going to see the malls that we used to have. But the appraisal to me is paid for by the owner, and it's regulated, and we should be able to trust the appraiser. But at the same time, I do think hiring someone to help evaluate the appraisal and help evaluate when they come in for an abatement is something different. I strongly urge that no elected official gets involved in the abatement process. To me, that's a big no-no. That's the politics that are ugly. We appoint the Board of Assessors to do that. You certainly have to work with city departments, and certainly city councilors and the mayor need to know what the abatements are about and what's going on, especially some with the significant impact of what's happened with the mall the past few years. But we cannot get involved and influence the abatement process. That type of politics becomes ugly real quick. But that's my 2 cents. As far as the mall goes, protecting Pyramid is my number one goal to make sure we have the valued partner that we've had known for so many years and don't have to agree with everything they're asking, but at the same time, working with them, I think, is important. When you say it's the auditors behind, let's paint that picture a little bit different. The auditors behind with the recap sheet, meaning the final levy, because, number one, the city council hasn't acted on the mayor's supplemental budget. There are both pluses and minuses in that budget. Once we act on that, the auditor is one step closer to doing the final recap sheet and giving the numbers to the assessors. The second, probably more important, is reconciling our cash revenue. The Treasurer's Department is trying to catch up from a deficit, a black hole that department's been in for a long time, and that needs to get as close as possible to real time to have a true recap sheet to be able to set tax classification. And I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just pointing out facts. Debbie, when were our values certified by the state?
Our values were certified in October, almost 5 weeks earlier than usual.
Okay, so the state is finally ahead of the game, but we're still behind the game in doing our tax classification. We should not be talking about having a special meeting on December 12th when most communities have already voted on tax classification. And most of the time, it's been the state, holding off on our certification. But there's certainly something to be said there that our goal should be, we should be doing this in September, October, and having plenty of time for, both your office, the tax collector, and everyone involved to get the bills out. If we don't do it, we know the consequences of, we missed the deadline, we cannot send the third quarter bill.
That's
Which I think has to be openly discussed, because that happens once, that puts us in a position where we may have to borrow some bridge money to get through until the fourth quarter double bill goes out. It's unfair to the property owners that all of a sudden they get a double bill for their final quarter, and they're confused as the first two quarters are allowed to be estimated, but the third quarter cannot be. So I think we have to keep that in the back of our mind, that we need to get this done. Now let's talk about some good things. Can you break down the new growth? Tell us the good, bad, and ugly of what happened this year with the 441,911.
Our new growth is a little sad this year at $441,000. We didn't have much. Next year, we are going to have more new growth, though, because we have some larger projects on scale. Any of our new growth had to be ready and be assessed as it was on the date of January 1, 2022. We did have some projects there that were started, and some were knocked down and just completely land, so we didn't have a lot of value to capture this year. But these larger projects, we're going to have significant more new growth next year. We have a couple new parcels of land as well, and there's permits taken out to build houses, so we're going to have new houses, new commercial buildings, so we're looking at some increase next year in our new growth, which will hopefully be higher than $441,000.
Dave, what about the new growth that can be associated and connected to older buildings being rehabbed and put fully online with some of the manufacturing industry we know as cannabis, in the terms of the value of those buildings going up? Has that had an impact on new growth or on the tax levy itself?
It didn't have much effect on new growth this year. Last year it had more when we had the large-scale facility. A lot of the marijuana facilities, although they're increasing in value, there's not substantial improvements to the buildings. It depends on what the use is for and what they're doing. But it has given us a small amount of growth. We're growing more in that way by earning income from fees that they pay to the city, and that way through income and taxes rather than through buildings.
Okay. And we have a lot of new city councilors, up and coming, rising stars that are going to be doing this for the first time. And I remember the first time I did it, I don't know about anybody else sitting over there in the corner, but my head was spinning. And my head still spins, because property tax is one of the most ugly taxes and form of taxation that there is. Many people think that cities choose the property tax to get revenue to pay for services, which is what we are about, services to to our citizens. But property tax is a scheme that's dictated to us and mandated to us by the state, because the state doesn't want to use property tax. They'd rather use sales tax. They'd rather use income tax. They'd rather use taxes that, are far more coming out of our pockets than property tax, but we don't see it. We don't think of the sales tax we pay every day, every week. We don't think of the taxes, the income tax that, most people say, I got money back from the state. How much money did you pay the state? And God forbid if you ever look at what you actually pay the federal government, who is busy saving the world and not even helping us with a mandate to clean up the Connecticut River. It's incredible. And property tax is ugly because you're in the trenches. It hits people at their home. The one thing I tell people is we still pick up your trash. And I hope we never stop doing that, because in the city of Holyoke, once we stop picking up their trash, once we don't have a place for yard waste, this community is going to go crazy. For the handful of single-family homes, that percentages go up like this, which if you're a homeowner is a good thing until you get your bill. It's a very tough pill to swallow, if your services are cut too. That's why I don't vote to cut the budget, because I believe in the services that we provide. The good news, I think, and I'm not sure where it came from, Debbie, but the 2- and 3-family homes, they were assessed or I shouldn't say assessed, maybe, appraised or market value for a long time, where banks weren't letting them sell for what they truly are worth. If you have one rental, two rentals, and you live in one apartment on a 3-family home, that in the worst condition, that appraisal should start at $100,000. And as we all know, they were down sometimes close to $50,000, and that was just enticing absentee landlords to start scoffing up the 3-family, 4-family homes, and to do the same thing that so many absentee landlords have done to our larger apartment buildings and run them into the ground as they collect the monthly rents. It's nice to see those values that are up. And is there still a 3-year cycle of going out to appraise property?
No, our recertification is every 5 years now. We do a 10-year cyclical inspection where properties are assessed every 10 years. Every property should be looked at every 10 years, and that's what we're in the middle of right now. And there's notices posted online where the homeowner should expect a visit from the assessors or our company that we hired to do appraisals and inspections of homes. But every 5 years is our recertification cycle through the state, where every component of value, whether it be a deck, a piece of land, what type of roofing, kitchen you have, every structure and element is broken down to come out with valuations.
Again, I thank you for all the work you and your office does. And my last question is, who are the 3 voting members of the Board of Assessors?
3 voting members of the board are myself, Tony DeLude, and Maureen Cronin.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments.
Deb?
Anyone else? Peter?
Yeah, thanks. Going back to that page, the average tax date, I've been doing this for a number of years too, and I'm still learning. My head's not spinning yet, Kevin, but I'm still learning. The commercial industrial, there's 2 segments. Can you explain what the class 300s and 400s means?
300s and 400s are in commercial and industrial. 300s are commercial, 400 is industrial. So manufacturing facilities are one, 300s would be like your offices, your stores,
Okay. And
things like that.
And the one below it, is that something else? Commercial industrial also?
The one below it just takes out the value of the mall.
Okay, so it's the same.
You had all asked me years ago to take out
Take
the
it out.
mall because it was such a high value and it skewed the average value.
Okay, and how often do you say the assessments are done for the businesses, the commercial? 5 or every 10 years?
No, a total recertification of the cities every 5 years. Interim year adjustments are done every year.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the increases. I know you lost a few parcels in a commercial, but it went up $2,700, which doesn't seem a lot. And our single families went up $16,800. So I'm thinking
That's
tax-wise, where the money's
growing
coming
class.
in, it seems like the commercial properties aren't taxed. Values aren't high enough, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, I know the rate's up there, and I think I talked to
Rates up
somebody.
there, the values are where they lie based on sales and income and expense and cost analysis studies.
Okay, because
They're all assessed fairly for what they have. We just can't raise the values of commercial so we can collect more taxes.
no, but it just seems, I think we talked about years ago, right across the street here, this building was valued at like $150,000. You got a home that's valued at $200,000. You got a business on the first floor, you got apartments on the second, and something on the third. I think it was right across, I think it was an attorney's office. And the value was like $175,000 or whatever. I'm just thinking that if some of these values on some of these commercial properties aren't done properly or at a regular basis, and I know what you're saying.
They're looked at every year.
Every year, okay. I would just like to see those numbers and some of these properties, because we're reading in the papers of some of these sales. I get the Sunday paper and read some of these sales on some of these properties and some of these apartment blocks that
These
are
sales that you're seeing now
well over $1 million.
aren't accounted for 2023. Our sales inspection cycle has to run the full calendar
Right.
year before the fiscal year. So our values for 2023 were comprised of sales from 2021.
Okay. So you're
So-
behind almost a year or 2 years.
Yes. That's the way the state works the
Okay.
sales analysis program.
And I'm just looking at numbers. I'm just thinking, if you have a block, let's say on Laurel Street, and it's worth 500,000, now it sells for 1.1 million. Was that assessed properly all those years, the last 3 or 4 years?
It's what the investors from
Willing to pay.
outside are, yeah, and that's a willing sale between a willing seller and a willing buyer that's not under duress, so that is an arm's length sale.
Okay.
And that's where we're going to run into problems in the future years if we continue to have sales like this or have lower sales on some buildings. The state will have to get involved and have things weighted differently maybe.
Okay, I appreciate that. So we may see some of those values that we just saw in the Sunday paper within a year or two?
On the
Taxes on the
apartment
buildings.
buildings, yeah.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot more that are coming down the pipeline for apartment buildings that are quite high.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Deb, I have a question.
Sure.
I saw, I don't know if it was in the spring, Springfield had a case that was heard by the appellate tax board against Eversource.
Yes.
Do we have any, or is there any update on outstanding cases that might impact our overlay account?
I do have a couple cases right now with the ATB. One I just recently settled, and there's another one for next year that has to be negotiated. As far as the utility companies, we have an agreement with the state that almost all 352 communities signed on to help protect the cities from these utility companies fighting their value and trying to get them lowered.
Okay.
So that is something we signed on to help protect us.
Okay.
We do have some liability with that, though, but it's not significant
Yeah.
right now.
And I just kind of meant in general.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
The tax classification packet you all have in front of you, if you notice, this year's a little different than it was in the past couple of years. It's more condensed, concise, and I think it's a little easier to understand. This came by way of Mayor Garcia, and I really liked the format, so I had Cheryl work on it for a while, and she did a fantastic job putting it together for us all, and it helped her learn a lot as she went along with it as well. But we're hoping it makes it easier for the seasoned counselors to understand, and also the new counselors to understand when making these decisions with the tax rate setting process.
Deb? If there's nobody else. Yeah, by the way, nice job on the packet. I thought this is, because we used to get them, they were really, really thick. So this is.
You had a lot of filler information before, and now it's just concise.
So
Thank you.
nice job on that.
Glad you like it.
So this set that we're talking about is the 62 million version.
Right.
If it's possible, and again, this is not really more to you, I suppose more the audience, because he makes the decision as the mayor. If we could get something where, we have a $61 million version, either we're talking about some money on the levy or what have you, but, I think we need to, I just don't see how, and I'm going through the numbers here based on this, 10% increase. I don't see how that's going to be tenable, to really go for a 400 on the average homeowner. I'm thinking what I'm hearing out there from folks is Social Security is going up this year. Thank goodness for that. They're getting an 8% adjustment. But when you're not getting paid that much on Social Security, what does that really amount to? For a lot of seniors, it's $100 to $120 a month, of extra money. And when now we're basically going to take $35 to $40 of that just in this one bill, doesn't leave much left for the prescriptions and the food and all the other costs that these folks are facing. And again, I point out that in Holyoke has the highest residential tax burden in the entire state of Massachusetts. That is, when you take the average tax bill divided by the per capita income of the residents, It's the highest. It's incredible what percentage of our people's actual income goes. It's almost to the point where I believe on household income, it's approximately 10% of their total income goes to the Holyoke property tax. It's incredible when you think about it. So when you think of all the bills, a lot of people don't realize it's just like, boy, property tax? You didn't realize that that's 10% of your total income is going to that in Holyoke.
Right. I can run the numbers with any levy amount, and the levy has to be decided by, I mean, this is the levy now, but what we use, the auditors, the budget, when they come out with the numbers, I can run anything, and that's a decision that has to be with the mayor and the city council.
Well, if you
The numbers will be where they lie. There's nothing we can do to change the numbers.
Well, there is something we can do to change the numbers from our side of it and with the mayor, not really from you, but is as we're making these final decisions of money that we want to spend over the next week or 2 weeks on these supplementals, does this mean we have to revisit some of those? At least we're cognizant of we've had, it's not usual we have supplemental budgets. This year, that's a new format, so that it's sort of still growing. And we may want to take that into consideration, at least be aware of it, situationally, before we make a final decision.
I think the supplemental budgets are great. It prevents coming in for transfers at the last minute.
Yeah, but my question is, we don't know unlike in traditional, we don't know yet what the final number is to go into this.
And hopefully next year we can do that earlier. My goal this year was to have everything ready and submitted early for the state. I worked very hard to make that happen because I was by myself for most of the year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I did make it happen 5 weeks earlier. I was hoping it would put us in a better situation to move forward on this, and we're getting there.
Yeah.
I don't want us to be the last community in the state to be setting tax rates every year. Last year, out of 352 communities, we were 311.
Yeah, right.
And it makes it tough at the end of the year, and it makes it tough for you all to make decisions when you're put on the spot.
Right. No, and to credit again to you, you're doing your job about getting our values certified, and I was glad Joe mentioned that because that is very true, and that is appreciated. But we do need to figure out the budget before December on what we're doing. But nevertheless, everybody's trying their best to.
Everybody's working really hard. We've got some great people, and
Yep.
it'll come together for us.
We'll figure that out. But it would be good to maybe have, what's the 61 million option too? Is that something that's potentially doable?
I can't
What
answer
is
that. That all depends on the auditor and what we need.
Correct. And does that mean we need to use some reserves potentially, or
I-
cannabis money, or
That's
what? I don't know.
Yeah.
But all I can ask for you is if you can run the table. This is the 62 million table. If you can run a 61 million table, I would just like counselors, as you're evaluating all this, to have, here's option 1, option 2, and you can consider all of it. That's my.
I can run a table for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk to Josh and the auditor and see
Well,
if that's
we're going to have that.
even
It's in finance.
feasibility.
Yeah, it's in finance right now, so
Okay.
we'll figure that out. But at least, normally when we're talking, we're only saying, is this good, is it bad? We're not talking about, quote unquote, the tax implications. And since we're having that conversation, it's just another variable we need to all consider.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions tonight?
Not a question, but
Motion to adjourn.
just, finance is working on a supplemental budget on November 30th, which means the vote is December 6th. So
So how we have,
the 14th is not realistic. And we don't know the reconciliation, wow, I cannot talk tonight, from the treasurer's office, which is a big part of the recap sheet.
Right. We would need to have a tax rate set at the latest on December 12th.
I think we're in trouble.
We're in trouble, yeah.
If we don't have it set the 12th, the tax bills
There's-
will not get out
Public
because,
hearings on the 12th and the 13th. There's a meeting on the 7th. The best meeting we might be able to have a special meeting would be the 8th if we don't, because we're not going to have tax classification unless we go by like what Councilor Jordan said, you know, a number that we agree upon and we agree that it's going to be adjusted once everything comes in
right,
to a small degree. We've done that before.
right. Well, the tax rates won't get approved by the state until the auditor gets approval on everything she's working on.
She's waiting. She's not working on anything. She is waiting for us,
Us to-
and she's waiting for the treasurer's office.
Okay, I thought there was other stuff she was working on still. After the rate is set, we need 1 day to have the state approve it before we can do the billing. As it stands now, the person that does our billing, the last date he had available was December 14th. Laura Wilson has checked with the printers of the billing for the last possible date we can get it to them, and it's December 23rd. However, if I don't have anybody to do the bills, they won't get done to get to the printer. And the last date they had was the 14th. That's what date we have scheduled, to try to find someone else to do the billing that knows our city and knows how to do it and work within our systems and get it done on time is going to be a challenge.
Debbie?
It seems like this whole thing's going to be a challenge, but I think everybody's going to try to make it happen. I hope.
We're going to do the best we can to make it happen, right?
Yep.
Counselor?
Mr. President, Saturday morning, December 10th?
I like that. Oh, he left.
Yes, Linda.
There's no,
No,
Oh, we've had a couple of those, right?
I remember Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, yeah.
so there's no reason why we couldn't meet at 5 or 5:30 on the night that there's a meeting at 6:30.
That's true.
We should be
We
able
can have
to
a,
accomplish it.
we can have a meeting at
An
5.
early meeting
Right.
at 5.
Right. That's the earliest we can have a meeting, is
Right.
5.
Right. So
Yes.
it would seem to me, once we have all the figures, there's not going to be all that much variation between the lowest and the highest shift.
Right,
And we should be able to get it done in an hour.
right. And I can pull those figures in 2 minutes if I
Yeah.
have the levy.
So to me, I don't see why we can't get it done
The 12th,
before.
at 5:30, 5 or 5:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we won't need an hour. Okay? You won't.
You talk for an hour.
So that means no repeat. That means no repeat.
He's getting his money's worth, yeah.
I would hate for it to run over and then have that special meeting. We could do 5.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yeah.
I think 5, just to be safe, and to give us a little bit of breathing.
5 o'clock.
Is someone speaking? Because we don't hear them on mic.
I suggested 5 o'clock, so it allows for a
second
little
that.
bit of breathing room between the two meetings.
Someone's got to sit up.
On the
and start
12th.
meeting, yeah. The mayor or Todd's got to call it, right?
Right.
The mayor has to call the special meeting to set the tax rate.
Okay, we vote for 5 o'clock.
Got our message?
December 12th.
We can call our own meeting.
Yeah, we can call it.
It's our order that we act on.
Yeah. President, we can call it.
We act on the minimum residential factor, you know, which we never talk about, but that's the number we act on. It's a percentage. And we can call our own meeting.
Oh,
Usually
okay.
just do
I
it.
thought it was the mayor that called the meeting.
Well,
This is the
mayor can call
tax.
a meeting, but, you know, we can do
We
either
changed
one.
those rules. The president also now can call special meetings.
Okay.
It used to be only mayor, but
All right.
we changed that.
That was a good change, right?
We try.
Yeah. Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh, okay.
Just walk out.
It's in our office, eh?
I make a motion to adjourn and continue the meeting at another time.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.